Let me make it clear, the mock trades you will see in this video are the offers I would make if I were the team I'm specifically talking about. I tried to make them as realistic as possible, but I also exaggerated them to make it the best possible return for the main team in each deal. Not saying these trades will all happen, but hopefully some or most will. Starting the video off, I believe the Warriors need to get Nikola Vucevic, as he would complement the team system and provides the team with much needed height. My ideal deal for the Warriors would be GP2, Kevon Looney, and Guy Santos, as the Bulls want expiring deals, and that is what GP2 and Kevon Looney provide them. With a clear need for shooting and shot making, the Houston Rockets must make an impact deal at the deadline if they want to compete this year. Looking at the market, the two best players they could add are Colin Sexton and Malik Beasley, and then the best deal Houston could make, in my eyes, they could land on both. In exchange for Sexton and Beasley, the Jazz would receive Jalen Green and draft compensation, while the Pistons would get Jayshawn Tate and a pick. I would say the Jazz are the team that says no, but who knows? As a Suns fan, seeing the rumors that we may get Jimmy Butler is just not appealing, as Bradley Beal would have to waive his no-trade clause, and I just don't see that happening, especially in the proposed deals. Now, my ideal trade for my team is just figuring out if we can move him in exchange for better pieces to fit our team. I don't have a specific trade I want to see, though. The most disappointing team in the NBA is clearly the 76ers, but they have been vocal about the fact they will look to make a move or two at the deadline. My ideal trade would land them Dante DiVincenzo to put him in a better role for success compared to his current situation, in exchange for Reggie Jackson, as the Timberwolves need a real point guard off the bench, KJ Martin, Ricky Council, and a second. The Trailblazers lowered their asking price for Jeremy Grant, but if they could get the Memphis Grizzlies to agree to a deal that sends Grant to Memphis for Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia, and picks, they would be making a winning move. The Orlando Magic have a seeming reluctance to give up anybody or add anyone, so I doubt they get an Anthony Simons or a premier guard, even though they desperately need one, or at least someone that can create their own shots on the perimeter and shoot, since they can't shoot. And adding a Jordan Clarkson to come off the bench and get buckets in a deal where they hardly give up anything, I guess that's the best they could do. That's realistic. So I think Orlando should offer the Jazz a deal that sends Cole Anthony and a second to Utah for Clarkson. The Cameron Johnson trade market is going to be a bidding war, but looking at the assets the Pacers have, they could be the winner of the sweepstakes. Now, they would have to give up a decent-sized package, but the best one that favors the Pacers is Obi Toppin, Jarris Walker, and the 2028 first. Maybe even more draft compensation, but I'm not going to add any because it is a Pacers trade in exchange for Johnson. And if they could pull that off, that'd be a great deal. He could be their perfect 3-and-D small forward that they desperately need. The Detroit Pistons have a few vets they could move, but Malik Beasley has the most value right now, so if you could send him to Houston for a pick, that'd be ideal. We just discussed Cameron Johnson to the Pacers, but the Kings could potentially get him too. However, if they landed him with this package, it would be a finesse job, as just about any other team, such as the Pacers, have a better package. A much, much better package, I should say. The Kings could offer Kevin Huerter, a young player, and a pick for Johnson, and be big winners in the deal. OKC doesn't need much, but getting Torrey Craig from Chicago for a pick would be ideal. The Denver Nuggets apparently want Zach LaVine, which isn't the best idea in my eyes, as they need depth and reliable two-way players to fit next to Jokic. I would still make a deal with Chicago, but instead of LaVine, I would get Lonzo Ball, Ayo Dosunmu, Javon Carter, and Torrey Craig in exchange for MPJ. The San Antonio Spurs don't need anything really. However, having an expiring contract in exchange for a player who has a big contract and doesn't really play much in return would be ideal. Clint Capella for Zach Collins is the best deal the Spurs could make. The New York Knicks need depth desperately and only have one expendable player with any value. It would take a little finesse to pull off any move where they can ship Mitchell Robinson elsewhere for depth, but in the deal I made, they do that exact thing. A 3-team deal that sends Mitchell Robinson and one of the Knicks' young players to the Hornets, while the Rockets land Seth Curry, and the New York Knicks get Cody Martin, Jayshawn Tate, and the legend Taj Gibson. 2.5 quality role players for them would be perfect. How long is PJ Tucker going to be a Clipper? Hopefully not much longer, as I believe they can move him and a pick to Atlanta for Bogdan Bogdanovic. Do the Mavericks need much? Not really, but if they could flip Dante Exum for Torrey Craig, that would be the best deal they could make at the deadline, as Craig provides them some more size on the perimeter defensively. Can the Toronto Raptors maximize Jakob Poeltl's value at the deadline? I think so, as the need for a center is clear for many, and his contract is movable. So if they could get a team like the Memphis Grizzlies to give them a package of Brandon Clark and 2 2 first-round picks in exchange for Poeltl, they would have made the best possible trade involving Poeltl. And I, for one, think both sides could benefit. The New Orleans Pelicans are a dumpster fire right now as they can't win and they have glaring issues in terms of contract negotiations and health. Now we have to figure out how many of the 4 of DeJounte Murray, CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, and Zion Williamson to trade this year. They could trade 1, 2, 3, or 4, but the first to go is probably going to be Brandon Ingram as they do not have the finances to extend him. The Golden State Warriors are desperate, and if they could trade Brandon Ingram to the Golden State Warriors for Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, and Guy Santos, this would be an amazing finesse job for the Pelicans. I mean, Andrew Wiggins is much better than he is being advertised as right now, so getting him in return for Ingram would be major, and it would be the best move they could make to move on from Brandon Ingram. Can the Lakers save themselves from another disappointing season? They might, but it'll take a lot of generosity from the Jazz and Hawks, as the Lakers would receive a better complementary guard that can defend and play on and off the ball while posting elite efficiency and having a killer instinct in Colin Sexton, and the Lakers would also add Clint Capella in my deal to be their bruising center next to AD in the front court. In the deal, the Lakers would ship Austin Reeves and Max Christie to the Jazz, while D'Lo and Jackson Hayes would go to Atlanta. I think the Lakers could pull it off, but again, they need some help from the Hawks and Jazz. But if they made this deal, a lot of their issues would be solved. The Cleveland Cavaliers are one small forward that can play both sides of the ball away from solidifying themselves as contenders, and Dorian Finney-Smith, a playoff experienced 3-and-D player, could be plugged in and be that perfect fit that the Cavs need. In a deal sending Georges Niang and Jalen Tyson along with 2 seconds for DFS, the Cavs would be making the best case deal they could. I think it would take more for the Nets to agree, but I've seen worse trades go through. And considering what we saw in the Dennis Schroeder deal, I mean, it's not ridiculous to believe the Nets could get finessed again. The Hawks want to move Clint Capella. The Grizzlies need size, so Brandon Clark and Jake LaRavia in exchange for Capella would be great for them. I don't have a specific trade for the Utah Jazz, but do you think they could get the Warriors to overpay for Lauri Markkanen even though he has regressed this season? If so, that's the trade I'm making. The Minnesota Timberwolves need a point guard to come off the bench and run the offense when Conley isn't in, and Corey Joseph is the best budget player they can get on the trade market, so moving Josh Minot to Orlando for Joseph would be a great deal for Minnesota. The best possible trade for the Grizzlies would involve them getting Jakob Poeltl in exchange for a small package of Brandon Clark, John Conchar, and a pick. I don't get why the Nuggets would do this, but it is rumored, and if the Bulls could pull this off, it would be a great move. The deal is Zach LaVine for a package around MPJ and Zeke Naji. I don't like it for the Nuggets at all, but if the Bulls could pull it off, great deal for them. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and that is all I need to say about the Boston Celtics. Honestly, if the Washington Wizards could just move Jordan Poole and Kyle Kuzma, that would be the best thing that could happen to them at the deadline to take the money off their books and get them away from their young players. More realistically, though, moving Malcolm Brogdon and Jonas Valanciunas would be their best idea. I don't exactly have a great trade for them. Just don't get screwed in the trade, please. The Bucks don't have much flexibility, but if they could do a 1-for-1 swap of Torrey Craig and Marjon Beauchamp, that'd be amazing. The best possible Jimmy Butler deal for the Heat would be Jimmy Butler and Kevin Love heading to Memphis in exchange for Marcus Smart, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard, John Conchar, and draft capital. Very wishful thinking, though, for the Heat, but that's the best Jimmy Butler trade you can find, at least for the Heat. The Hornets desperately need a center of the future that can defend and fit in with their team. They also need to appease LaMelo Ball before it is too late, so going all in and trading for Nick Claxton in a deal that sends Grant Williams, Cody Martin, Nick Richards, and a first or two to the Nets would be an amazing deal for the Hornets. And the last trade would be for the Brooklyn Nets, as they need to do better with their next trade compared to the Schroeder deal, and Dorian Finney-Smith would be the player they need to exploit the value of to redeem themselves. Cameron Johnson also could be that player, but I want to focus on Finney-Smith because the best deal that they could make would be with the Indiana Pacers, as they could land Jarris Walker, Isaiah Jackson, and draft compensation for Dorian Finney-Smith. And if they could pull that off, that would be an amazing deal. Comment down below any mock trades that you have made that you want to see go through. I'll rate them for you. Again, these trades aren't the best trades. I wouldn't say that I agree with all of them completely, but for the teams that I focused on when making the deals, I would definitely hit the yes button if it was possible. But yeah, that's all I got for y'all. If you want to check out my latest episode of In Case You Missed It, the weekly recap on my channel that drops every Monday at 3, click on the video with Jimmy Butler and the Grizzlies in the thumbnail, because there's a lot of rumors of Jimmy Butler, and that was the big topic of last week. And if you want to see the best trade target for every team at this year's deadline, click on the video on the screen. Y'all stay safe. Have a good one. Bye. Don't forget to like and subscribe.